Deleted session, August 27, 1973. Now, good evening. And with this kind of session, you must bear with us for a short while until we get at the proper levels. We will begin with the material that is pertinent and work through it to other data still more pertinent. A simple statement of fact, regardless of the reasons. Ruber has a great, but not neurotic need for expressions of love. A child does not always understand that concern for its welfare is the same thing as love. Sometimes it may be. Sometimes concern is a result of something else. The parents who say brush your teeth because it is good for you, and I want you to be healthy, may mean I love you, but the child will usually prefer a hug and a kiss. And if the hug and the kiss is not given, then the brush your teeth suggestion becomes an order to the child. Ruber is not a child, but you often do think that your concern automatically expresses your love, and take it for granted that to Ruber that is clear. While he tells himself that your concern is based on love, and knows it, he felt that love, for example, last night through feel and touch. Now, while Ruber is not a child, he operates emotionally with a child's simplicity, and is at his best in direct personal encounter with you or with his friends, for example. With the same directness, he does not want anything to do with people he dislikes, for whatever reason. He was so direct emotionally that he idealized what he thought of as your relative detachment. This, of course, is odd. At one time, he felt his emotional spontaneity was indeed admired by you and encouraged, and he blossomed. Then he felt it frightened you, that it would form a barrier between you. He felt that you thought he wanted more than you could give, or wanted to give. Practically speaking, he believed that emotional freedom would be construed as chaos, that while you said be spontaneous, you meant be spontaneous when it is convenient. Besides the personality differences, however, work was also involved. Spontaneous love-making, for example, would cut into the work schedule that both of you have evolved. All of this is old, yet the patterns began strongly then. He felt that his obvious femininity was almost a threat to both of your works, that he had no right to look sexy and tempt you both with spontaneous love play, for example, would not occur. He remembers you telling him not to kiss you or be sexually provocative unless he meant it. By nature, he deals directly with people or events. When he feels that this is impossible and tries to do otherwise, he runs into difficulty, because you are only now learning to verbalize your feelings. This means that he felt, particularly in the past, that you dealt with him opaquely in an area in which he did not know how to cope. He felt it unfair to keep at you for emotional expression of love through verbalization and touch when it was not natural to you. In self-protection, he tried to become the same way, to inhibit his sexuality because of what he thought of as your temperamental differences, and also because of the work schedule interruptions. Now, in the past, not too distant, you often met his advances coldly whenever he did decide to try again. I can give you instances if you want them. Rob noted, No, it isn't necessary. Jane wrote upon reading this session. How I often deal opaquely with Rob. Suppose now I wanted love in afternoon. Please, let's discuss this schedule. They said these feelings were also based upon youthful feelings that a woman's biology could be a threat to a writer, so there was a base there that made a certain sense to Ruber. Lately, he was convinced that he was unattractive to you from the face down, that you considered him stupid, as he did, while having physical difficulty, that you were a perfectionist and did not want to see crooked legs, that physically, not mentally, he got in your way, and that physically you did not look upon him with approval, as he did not. Now, there are reasons. You have stated them well. For ambiguities of feeling on your part about Rupert's condition, they are understandable. You make an effort to tell him he looks well on occasion, but stroking his body tells him you love it. Frowning at him does not. If you both continue, these sessions will continue. If you let the personal sessions go, then there are reasons why you each let them go. Again, it is because of the strength of your particular alliance, yours and Rupert's, that your reactions to each other are so charged and interbound. There is only so much I can give you in an evening, but I have much in mind. I will give you a break, and I would like to continue. I am only giving certain aspects now that are important. Rob noted, among other things, Jane wrote later, I thought Rob was saying, when you are completely recovered, etc., we'll take trips, symbolism, when you are good enough. They said, now, Rupert's work therefore became more and more important. It had to justify the lack of spontaneity in personal areas, and the same always applied to you. For a while, at least, he felt you met only in your work and in the sessions. Everything he does is literal and symbolic at the same time. He became relaxed and psychedelic one day fairly recently when he washed windows and you made a remark to the effect that you would not like to be at the mercy of such things. Do you follow me? Rob said, yes. They said, to him, it was a direct action taken against something that annoyed him, the dust, an act of independence since he did it, and a symbolic clearing away of inner debris. To completely redecorate and rearrange your apartment would represent a symbolic and literal statement. At least you would be perfecting what you have, and taking steps within that framework, freely redecorating creatively, changing your environment instead of squawking while staying. Yet he is sure you would consider it a vast annoying distraction, even though not as annoying as moving. But he has not felt free to go ahead in either direction. Spontaneity, except in work, has been largely closed out of your lives, but it is to him unnatural. Spontaneous trips are in the same category. Regardless now of the physical difficulty, your way of life has been more natural to you than to Ruber. The classes afford him some spontaneity. At the same time, he thinks of the two of you together. Anything you do as partners excites him. Anytime you initiate a program to help him, he is excited. When you do not continue it, he is afraid that you are not willing to take the consequences, while you interrupt the discontinuation to mean he does not want to improve. In a way, both interpretations are correct, though because of his position, he is more apt to project negatives on you. Raised your hand. Ross said, okay. Ram noted, once again, Jane wrote upon reading the session, if I have been afraid of letting R see me at my worst, don't be afraid of letting him see me at my best. They said, I want to give you some immediate suggestions. There are other issues involved, but they surround the points given. The information is all available, but you are physically hampered in time, so I will clear up any points later and amplify. Because you are not in his position, you are presently able to help him when he falters, to help him help himself, and you help consistently. In a consistent program itself assures him that you do want him to be himself. You are above some of his hustles, but familiar with them, so you can help by offering encouragement precisely when he is down. If his downness depresses you, as is nature, imagine how much more it depresses him, and try then to find your own footing. Strangely enough, in encouraging his spontaneity, you are encouraging your own, because often he acts for both of you. It is futile to say that life should not involve challenges. You have accepted them. They are accepted to be solved. You are seeing what happens when spontaneity becomes hampered through beliefs, and in your early life, you believed you must hamper it in yourself. You are seeing what happened to your brothers. You are seeing what happened to your father. You are seeing what could have happened to yourself. I am not just speaking physically, but you are seeing with growing understanding, and what you see will help others. Robert is learning to understand the nature of the mind in a way he could not understand it second-handed. Playing games, and in condensed form you are learning about the human condition. What you said today is true. You must learn to understand the creativity and the responsibility of consciousness. Yet you yourself often said in the past that suggestion could not be that important. Suggestion causes your reality. The suggestions you give are given as a result of your beliefs. The reasons why Robert improved to a large degree the summer you took this place. Rob noted, apartment 4. They said were important. You worked together. You utilized suggestion together. You began the morning together, using suggestions consciously decided upon. You had a plan and you followed it. Besides, you took what were at times tiny measures in physical terms, direct terms to better your environment. Ram noted, moving into apartment 4. They said, you took direct action. You communicated feelings. You roused yourselves, believing that suggestions meant something, and they worked. Good suggestions are not bandages to cover up, unless you believe they are. They represent the power of your conscious intent to change, and the recognition of that power and its use automatically displays feelings of powerlessness. Suggestions can change beliefs, for beliefs are only accepted habitual suggestions. When you use so-called positive suggestions, you must implement them through action, but gently. You have each been structuring your experience largely through Ruber's symptoms, both of you, so that when Ruber might momentarily feel free, you would remind him of his limitations. And when you might forget them, Ruber would remind you. Both of you concentrate upon the symptoms and Ruber's dire circumstances, which reinforces them. If you do this without feeling the symptoms, then at least understand how Ruber so easily does the same thing. 1. For both of you, you must turn your concentration into other areas, and this applies to you for you are a part of it. As much as to Ruber, I will give you directions to facilitate. 2. A definite approach that I will initiate for you both to follow. You are in your own reality. You have chosen this one, even as Ruber has. An earwag is not inflicted upon you. Ralph said, I know it. Seth said, 3. Definite direct physical encounter with your environment. Presently, this will involve important but minute issues until the book is finished. 4. A minimum of 1 session a week privately. Now, I want Ruber to keep a pendulum by the bed. In the morning, suggestions given with the pendulum, and both of you participating. He is not to feel ashamed of his body in your eyes, regardless of its condition. Again, in one night, I can only give you so much, but he grew afraid, and you helped him today to combat that fear. He was frightened that the body could not change, and your belief that it could was of great help. I would like to give you much more. Take a break or end it as you prefer. Ralph said, unfortunately, I guess we'll have to end it then. Seth said, there will be questions you have then that are not answered this evening. In the meantime, follow the few suggestions given, and in whatever way you can, express your own spontaneous feelings toward Ruber. On his part, he must make an effort to rise above the reinforced feelings of despair, and to assure himself that his body can perform adequately with time, and following these suggestions. The reasons for the intensified difficulty for the past 2 months are not as important this evening as the material I am giving you. Some changes have to be made in the material delivered, and the tiny reasons are still connected to these patterns. If you want the specific tonight, you can have them. It is your decision. Ralph noted, I am afraid we'll have to wait. Seth said, then my heartiest regards to you both, and a fond good evening. Ralph said, thank you, Seth, good night.